It's official. Portland wasted $58 million building Wapato Jail. After sitting empty for 16 years, the owner plans to replace it with we'll tell you what he plans to replace it with after he tears it down. Plus,
no one's listening.
Emotions run high after PSU leaders announce campus officers will keep their guns. Why so many students want them disarmed.
And he can dance, he can party, he can tell a story. A day spent with a World War II vet on a very special occasion on an all-new Those Who Serve.
This is KGW News at 6.
First at 6, the wrecking ball is coming for Wapato.
Today, the owner of the jail that has never been used says he's given up hope that it ever will be. That in mind, he says demolition day is coming.
KGW's Maggie Vespa reports what's next for Wapato Jail.
Because even today, walking through this, I'm sickened that this is going to be demolished in the next few months.
And with that, in went the towel. Doing the throwing, Portland developer Jordan Schnitzer.
Their ability to put beds up here with their own cubicles, okay, their recreation areas.
Schnitzer today admitting he's given up hope on turning Wapato Jail into a homeless shelter. He bought the facility a year and a half ago for $5 million. Since then, he says several groups have come forward to use parts of the jail to house the homeless. But no one has a plan to run the whole 525-bed space, which he says is necessary. Today, he had a line of people who feel the way he does, ready to speak.
I just don't understand why. And I think there's some fears with politicians and stuff. I don't understand why they don't jump on this.
I can guarantee you that if we had to put this on a ballot measure right now, 80% of the people in Multnomah County, of which one I am, would vote to repurpose this to a community wellness center.
Schnitzer's is the latest chapter in the jail's embattled history. Back in 2004, the county spent $58 million in taxpayer money building it, but officials later said it was an unnecessary project, and the way it was constructed made it too expensive to run. So it was never used. They've since said it would cost more than $18 million a year to operate it as a giant shelter, arguing they're better off putting that money toward permanent homes with supportive services. The last count showed there are 2,000 people living on the streets of Multnomah County. Schnitzer today saw this as an opportunity lost.
Right now we should have the mayor, the chair of the county, the governor right behind me saying we've come together and we're going to make this work. But they're not seeing it that way.
So Multnomah County issued a statement on this today saying basically what they've been saying for years, that with that more than $18 million a year operating cost price tag, Wapato is just too expensive to run as a shelter, just like it was too expensive to run as a jail. And they say they're glad that Jordan Schnitzer finally came to the same conclusion. We stream the whole presser, by the way, live at KGW.com if you want to check it out.
So, Wapato Jail could be demolished after sitting empty for 16 years. How did we get here? Back to 1996, when voters actually wanted a jail. In fact, they said okay to the $46 million bond it would take to build the thing. The state, they were into it too. They said, hey, we'll chip in an additional $12 million. Great. Except not great, because those same voters on that same ballot actually made it more difficult to raise the money to keep that jail funded. It would be like buying a brand new car with a bunch of money, but not wanting to pay for the gas to keep the thing running. So we weren't exactly off to a great start, but they built it anyway. 7 years later, in 2003, it was done and then immediately put to use. Just kidding. No, it wasn't. It just stood there empty and became our collective Peloton bike. Expensive, state-of-the-art, and collecting dust. Now, that's not to say the community didn't try to do something with it. After all, we were spending between $300,000 and $400,000 a year just to keep it ready for something. And in 2015, many people thought that something had arrived. The mayor at the time, Charlie Hales, announced officially that there was a housing emergency in Portland. So the city waived zoning codes. They started to convert city-owned buildings into shelters, and soon Wapato entered that conversation. But ultimately, the county decided it would be too costly to convert. So in April of 2018, the county voted to sell our $58 million jail for $5 million. Which brings us to today, when Jordan Schnitzer announced his plans to demolish it. And that is how we got here. And if you would like to read up on the Wapato Jail saga at your own speed, you can do so at our website, kgw.com. Check our app also. We've been covering it from the beginning.
We just learned this afternoon the man who brought a shotgun to Park Rose High School earlier this year has pleaded guilty.
The gun scare sent that school into lockdown back in May. 19-year-old Angel Granados Diaz never actually fired that gun, which only had one round loaded inside of it. Today in Multnomah County Court, he was sentenced to 3 years probation, which will include mental health and substance abuse treatment.
This is the man police used deadly force on yesterday morning in St. Helens. You see him here, 32-year-old Michael Veach. We're saying deadly force because police haven't specified how officers killed him, just that they didn't shoot him. If the name Michael Veach sounds familiar, it's because we've reported about him before. In April, he and his brother Matthew Veach were arrested. Matthew was charged with rendering criminal assistance to a third man, Brian Butts. Butts died in a shootout with authorities after he killed Cowlitz County Deputy Justin DeRozier in April. And to make this even more complicated, Butts' brother Daniel is in custody, accused of killing the Rainier Chief of Police, Ralph Painter, in 2011.
The CEO of Mercy Corps has resigned while the charity deals with a sex abuse scandal. Neil Kenny Geyer's resignation comes 2 days after the Oregonian published a huge investigation into the organization. It surrounds Tanya Culver Humphrey. She is the daughter of Mercy Corps co-founder Ellsworth Culver and says her father sexually abused her. She says Mercy Corps ignored her accusations for years. Experts on nonprofits say this kind of thing can damage an organization for a long time.
It's quite possible that since these allegations are of sexual abuse and even worse than sexual abuse, hard to say that there's something worse than sexual abuse, but it was by this victim's father, and there are indications that there was probably more than one victim. I think the reverberations could be quite strong, quite wide, quite long lasting.
Kenny Geyer had served as CEO since 1994.
PSU campus police will stay armed. The university's president made that announcement earlier today. It has been a divisive issue on campus that really heated up over the past year when 2 officers shot and killed a man near campus. KGW's Morgan Romero was at today's announcement. She joins us in the newsroom. Morgan, people opposed to this decision did not hold back.
No, Laurel, they did not. They held up signs saying boycott PSU, and they booed when the decision came down. Many students, faculty, and staff have been urging the school to disarm officers since they put them on campus 5 years ago. Their cries grew louder, as you mentioned, this past year after 2 PSU officers shot and killed 45-year-old Jason Washington last June.
There will be no change in the number of authorized sworn officers. 10 campus police officers will be responsible for
disapproving chants.
Concerns about public safety run deep on our campus,
echoing throughout the room.
I'm absolutely appalled that this is still happening.
And a grieving family laying out their heartache.
And to you guys, he's just one person, but to us, he was our world.
Right.
And our world has been destroyed.
Jason Washington's wife, disappointed in the path the university chose.
But I feel like no one's listening.
Last June, Washington was shot and killed by 2 campus officers after he went to pick up his legally concealed gun that came out of its holster while he was trying to break up a fight.
I pray that one day you guys change your mind. Hopefully sooner than later, before it happens to anyone else.
And the way that Black and brown students and Black and brown people in this community and community leaders feel about this decision has always been, this is not making our campus safer, this is putting Black, brown, trans people, all marginalized people at risk on our campus.
A survey shows more than half of Portland State students and staff feel unsafe having armed officers on campus. Interim University President Stephen Percy said the decision to keep officers armed will make the urban campus safer.
Some students in this ever more violent society we seem to be living in, there are people who said to me that they feel they need someone, at least some resources on our campus that could respond to an incident that involved a weapon or a threat of use of a weapon.
They're also looking to hire more unarmed public safety officers and bring on 10 student safety ambassadors. Parts of the safety plan got support, like installing better lighting and cameras on campus. It also calls for training on de-escalation, mental health awareness, and homelessness.
We learned that people who experience homelessness and visit our campus may be better served by health and support services rather than a campus public safety response.
There are currently 6 sworn armed officers. PSU's budget allows for 10, so they've been trying to recruit 4 more to the force, but obviously it's been difficult. As part of the new holistic safety plan, university leadership will review it every 3 years. In an effort for transparency, the report will be available to the public.
Thank you, Morgan. If you would like to weigh in, let us know what you think about PSU's decision. Do you agree? Vote in tonight's poll at kgw.com/vote. You can also vote on the KGW app.